Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The last beating was worse than the others. I don't even remember what I said wrong. Adam's fists rained down like a storm, each blow stealing the air from my lungs. When he finally staggered away, cursing under his breath, I lay there on the kitchen floor, staring at the cracked ceiling, something inside me splintering for good. I had to leave, tonight, or he would kill me and the children would grow up thinking that was love. Ellie whimpered from behind the couch, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Jamie sobbed quietly into his hands. There was no time to pack, no time to plan. I grabbed their hands and we ran. Out the back door, into the freezing night, wearing nothing but our torn clothes and bruises. Rain lashed against our skin. We caught a passing car and drove off wherever you look. We came to a remote little town. The driver helped us find a cheap apartment. Somewhere, hours later, a broken-down apartment offered shelter. No furniture, no heat. I held Ellie and Jamie against me on the floor, listening to the howling wind outside. "Mommy, are we gonna be okay?" Jamie whispered. I kissed his wet hair, tears burning my eyes. "We will," I said. "We have each other." Finding work was its own battlefield. No resume, no clean clothes. I scrubbed toilets, washed dishes, anything for a few dollars. Then one morning, walking past a bakery window, the scent of bread stopped me cold. A sign hung crookily. Help wanted, no experience needed. Inside, a stout woman peered at me over the counter. "You bake?" "I can learn," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Mrs. Hayworth nodded. Early mornings, hard work, no whining. It was more kindness than I'd expected. I started the next day, kneading dough with bleeding fingers, sweeping floors until my back ached. The bakery became a fragile sanctuary. At night, in our tiny apartment, Jamie and Ellie smiled again. Sometimes, I even caught myself smiling too. Then came Daniel, a customer at first. Kind eyes, a patient smile. "You ever take a break?" he joked once, handing me a ridiculous tip. I barely looked at him. Men with kind smiles had ruined me before. After 3 months, Mrs. Hayworth called me into her office. "You've earned it," she said, sliding a promotion offer across the desk. Morning shift manager. I opened my mouth to accept, but then saw Leela, the girl who had shared her sandwiches with me when I had no lunch. She needed it more. "Leela deserves it," I said quietly. "She's been here longer." Mrs. Hayworth shrugged. "Suit yourself." That night, as the children and I walked home under a silver sky, I almost let myself hope. But when I tucked Ellie into bed, she clung to me tightly, her voice a broken whisper. "Mommy, I dreamed he found us." I shushed her, brushing her hair back, hiding my own fear. But deep in my bones, I knew. Some monsters don't stay in dreams. They hunt. It began with a shadow at the edge of the bakery window. At first, I thought it was my imagination, a trick of fear never quite forgotten. But then I saw him. Adam. Smiling like the man I once thought I loved. I stumbled backward, knocking over a display tray. Mrs. Hayworth scolded me, but her voice was distant, muffled. My blood roared in my ears. That night, I bolted the apartment door 3 times. Ellie clung to me, her eyes wide with silent terror. Jamie, though, was curious. "Mommy, I think I saw Daddy outside." He looked happy. Happy. The word tasted bitter. The next morning, he was waiting outside the daycare. "I've changed, Clara," he said, holding his hands up in surrender. "I'm not the man I was. Therapy, support groups. I'm even running a children's soccer league now." He looked thinner, cleaner, almost believable. Almost. "I don't believe you," I hissed, grabbing Ellie's hand. "Stay away from us." But the town was small. Word traveled fast. Soon teachers, neighbors, even Mrs. Hayworth were singing his praises. "Maybe he's really trying," Leela said one night as we closed up the bakery. "People can change, Clara." I wanted to believe her. God help me, I wanted to. Jamie ran to Adam every time he appeared at the playground, laughing, showing him crayon drawings. Ellie, though, stayed stiff and silent, never looking him in the eye. One rainy afternoon, Adam caught me outside the bakery. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said, voice low. "Just a chance to be a father. They deserve that much." For a terrifying second, I hesitated. He rented an apartment just 3 buildings away, planting himself like a weed in our fragile new life. Invitations arrived for school events he sponsored, community parties he helped organize. And slowly, people began to look at me differently, like I was the one holding onto old grudges. At night, Ellie would whisper, "I don't like him, Mommy," while Jamie dreamed of soccer games and birthday parties. I sat alone by the window, watching Adam's lights across the street, a knot of dread growing in my stomach. Because monsters don't just vanish. Sometimes they wear better masks. And deep down, I knew. The real Adam was still there, waiting. It started with missing receipts. At first, I thought it was exhaustion. Balancing work, the kids, and constant vigilance was tearing me apart. But when Mrs. Hayworth called me into her cramped office, waving a stack of invoices, my stomach dropped. "Clara, these payments don't add up," she said, her brows knitted. "It's serious. I'm sorry, but we have to report it." I stumbled out into the street, heart hammering, mind racing. I knew I hadn't touched a cent. Someone had set me up. But who? The answer came too quickly. Leela avoided my eyes all evening, her hands trembling as she boxed pastries. And Adam, he was waiting outside the bakery, arms folded, a faint smirk on his face. That night, the police knocked on my door. Ellie screamed. Jimmy clung to my leg. I went with them in handcuffs, head held high only because I refused to let my children see me break. They interrogated me for hours in a cold gray basement. Fraud. Theft. Charges that could ruin everything I'd built. "Someone's framed me," I said over and over. I swear it. They didn't care. They had paperwork. Signatures. Proof. When they finally let me make a call, I didn't call Daniel. I didn't call Leela. I sat there, numb, staring at the blinking cursor. By the time I was released on bail 2 days later, it was too late. My apartment was empty. No Ellie, no Jamie, no stuffed rabbit left behind. A neighbor's shaky voice filled the silence. Your husband came by. Said he was taking the kids somewhere safe." I collapsed onto the curb, the world spinning around me. Later, through whispered conversations and furious searches, the ugly truth unfolded. Adam had seduced Leela, sweet, struggling Leela, whispering promises of love, stability, a future. Together, they'd forged the bakery bills, knowing I'd be blamed. And while I sat in a concrete cell, Adam disappeared, with my children and with Leela by his side. Word came days later from an old coworker. Adam's father had died, leaving a fortune behind. It was his own mansion, lakeside cottage, collector cars, a $300 million bank account, but only to the rightful heirs, the children of Adam. Ellie and Jamie, my babies. He just wanted to collect his inheritance because his father left him without a dime. He didn't need the kids, he was just plain loving daddy. I lay awake at night in the empty apartment, staring at the cracks in the ceiling, thinking only one thought. I will find them. I will get my children back, no matter the cost. Call came just after midnight, lighting up my phone in the darkness. He's hurting me. Jamie is sick. He won't let me call for help. Please. It was from Leela. I froze, the world narrowing to those few desperate words. My hands shook. Where are they? He was getting documents ready, she whispered, her voice cracking, to prove you were unfit, to take full custody. He said once he had the money, he didn't need me. I thought he loved me, she choked out. But when Jamie got sick, he screamed that no one was calling a doctor, said it'd make us look bad. When I begged him, the call was cut off. She didn't give me an address. Anger burned through my veins, hot and sharp. Daniel said he knew someone on the police force and they'd find the address over the phone. The police finally found the address, and Daniel and I rushed over there. The house sat at the edge of town, hidden behind dead trees. From a broken window, I saw them. Ellie crowed protectively over Jamie, who lay motionless, his forehead glistening with fever. Inside, Adam paced like a trapped animal, bottle in hand. Leela cowered in a corner, fresh bruises blooming along her arms. You ruin everything, he roared, swinging wildly through himself at Leela. She cried out, crumpling to the floor. Sirens shattered the night. Minutes later, Adam bolted for the door, but officers tackled him to the ground. He howled, cursing everyone. Jamie whimpered weakly. Ellie spotted me and broke into sobs, running into my arms so fiercely we both stumbled. I was scared, Mommy, she cried. Jamie's really hot. I'm here now, sweetheart, I whispered, brushing her hair back. Mommy's here. Mommy's got you. The EMTs took Jamie to the hospital and we followed. And Adam, handcuffed and snarling, disappeared into the back of a police car. At last, the nightmare was ending. At last, I had my children back. And this time, nothing would tear us apart again. The courtroom was quiet, save for the rustle of papers and the faint tapping of my heart. Adam stood across from me, his once confident arrogance crumbling in the face of the truth. He looked different now, smaller, desperate. It was as if everything he built had shattered in front of him, and now all that remained was a broken man. I sat at the witness stand, my children at my side. Ellie's small hand clutched mine, her fingers trembling. Jamie, finally recovering from his illness, sat beside her, looking up at me with those wide, trusting eyes. He was still my baby, my fighter. The prosecutor spoke about Adam's cruelty, the countless lies, and the manipulation. Leela had testified against him as well, her voice raw with regret. She had broken free too, and now she was trying to find redemption, just as I had. Your Honor, the prosecutor said, the evidence is overwhelming. This man has manipulated, abused, and endangered his own children for his own selfish gains. I watched Adam's face twist in anger, but he couldn't hide his defeat. The evidence was clear. He had nothing left to stand on. When the verdict came, it was like a weight lifting from my chest. Guilty. Adam was sentenced to a long prison term, and my children were finally safe. The room felt unreal as the final gavel slammed down. Ellie turned to me, her eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and relief. Is it really over, Mommy? She whispered. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Yes, sweetheart, it's over. Weeks passed, and life began to heal. Slowly, but every day felt like a gift. Daniel, who had quietly stood by me, supporting me through the darkness, held my hand tighter now. He had been my rock when I didn't know how to keep going. Now he was asking me a question that filled me with warmth. Clara, he said one evening, as we sat on the couch, the kids playing quietly in the corner. Will you marry me? I looked at him, and in his eyes, I saw not just the man who had cared for me, but the man who had helped me rebuild everything. My heart swelled. My answer was simple. Yes. The wedding wasn't grand. It was small, just Daniel, me, Ellie, Jamie, and a few close friends. As the vows were exchanged, I looked at my children, who were beaming with joy. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. I had made it through the storm, and now with the people I loved, I could finally breathe. I woke up every morning with the sound of laughter filling the house. The dark memories of Adam's cruelty still lingered, but they no longer had a hold on me. Every moment I spent with my children, every laugh we shared with Daniel, was a reminder that love and healing were stronger than any darkness I had known. And for the first time in a long time, happy.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.